wasn't bad. That's apparently all of Facebook is down, but we need to babysit it. Can you keep an eye on it for us and let us know the minute it's back on? Well, hold off on it because if the whole contest takes.
The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we're coming to you live from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. We're live on YouTube right now and live on our own channel. Facebook is struggling. We're seeing that there are widespread outages being reported and we are not able to connect to Facebook yet. We're keeping an eye on it, and the minute that Facebook is up, we will stream live from Facebook as well. It's one of those, I feel bad for Facebook because I'm sure we've had an interesting morning, but I'm sure they're having a much more interesting morning. In any case, we are coming to you live, as I said, from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. This is the home for Autism Live. It is also the home for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. We're thrilled to be with you live on this Wednesday morning. You know, I love me some Wednesday because usually on Wednesday we start out with Ask Dr. Doreen, and Dr. Doreen Grandpichet is here with us whenever she can be. I am sad to report that she is not here with us this morning. So we're going to play an oldie but a goodie, and they're always oldie but a goodies when Dr. Doreen has the opportunity to answer questions from parents. I do want to let you know that for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, we are going to be here live with some amazing guests. We've got Faith Butterfield and her sister Gracie Butterfield are going to be here with us. Two amazing young women who are animators and storytellers, and Faith is an actress. She's a Renaissance woman. And so we're very excited that Faith is going to have the opportunity to be here with us. She's going to talk about her challenges that she faces in her life and what she's got going on now. You really want to meet an inspirational young women, you'll want to tune in for that. We also have Regina Levy. She goes by Gina. So she's a CPA, and I know it's like, ugh, tax time, who wants to talk to a CPA? But we're going to talk with her about some issues that are really going to supercharge your ability to be able to afford the things that you want to do in your life, especially having to do with autism. So we've been talking a little bit about IHSS. This is here in California, in-home health support services, and we want to get the whole 411 for all of you who are like, I don't know what that is. There's this rumor that I could be getting some money, get paid for taking care of my child or have somebody else. So she's here to talk to us about what you can do with that and many other things, about how you get funding to be able to help with copays, to be able to cover the expenses of this very expensive journey through autism, right? I want to say we saw that really amazing article written by an adult on the autism spectrum in the Washington Post last week, talking about how offensive it is when people talk about how many marriages that have a special needs child, in particular autism, excuse me, end in divorce, and how offensive and hurtful it felt for this person on the spectrum that they were made to feel like a monster. And I want to reiterate that is marriages don't end because of our kiddos and their behavior and their diagnosis with autism. No, 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 no. It ends because of the financial swirl and the fighting with the school and not knowing what services to get and not being able to connect to them and finding out later that somebody else got it and you didn't. Whoo, all of those things. That's why there's stress, and that's why it can be really hard on a marriage. So hopefully Gina's going to help connect us with some things that will reduce that stress, make our ability to pay bills go up, and then everybody's happy. Can we hear the angels sing? Whoa! Right? And then on top of that, very special guests at the top of Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. We're not even going to do in the news because we're so excited that Lisa Ackerman, founder of TACA, is going to drop in to be with us via Skype, and she is going to be giving away 5 sets of tickets to their conference that's just coming up very soon. It's on the East Coast. It's in Atlanta, Georgia. Keynote speaker, Holly Robinson Peake. Come on, folks. So they're going to be giving away 5 sets of tickets to their conference. If you've never been to a TACA conference, my friends, it is life-changing, right? So that's going to be right at the top of Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. We want to remind you that even though this first hour we're going to give you a pre-taped version of Ask Dr. Doreen, it's still we still want to be interactive. And even though Facebook is down, we still want to be interactive. So Traven, did you already show them all the ways that they could connect? No, he's going to show you right now. And while he does, I want to remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. You can be watching us on all the other different ways that he's showing you, except for Facebook. Apparently that's not working this morning. Somebody's having a stressful morning. But you can watch us on all these different, and when you can get on Facebook, you can see us there because we've done hundreds of hours of shows, live shows on Facebook, both in the studio and live out in the field. But we hope that you will watch in whatever format feels good for you. We do encourage you at some point to visit our homepage, autism-live.com, because there's a lot to do there. You will see that on this new page, there is a pop-up that within 7 seconds of when you're on the page, it will pop up and it will say, would you like to subscribe? And I just want to make it clear that when you subscribe to that, what that means is that you're going to get a notification. Usually on Monday or Tuesday of the week, we put out a what we call a postcard. It's a viewer guide. It tells you who's going to be on this week. I mean, and it's just like a one thing. And so it's not like we send you all this stuff that you got to work through, right? It's not that. And we think that, that way it'll hook you up to knowing, oh, I got to make sure that I check that out because Lisa Ackerman's going to be on. And Faith Butterfield's going to be on, right? So all those wonderful things. So that's all that, and by the way, if you click it, it will go away until the next time you come back. But I believe if you do subscribe that it doesn't pop up anymore, like it remembers that computer and goes, hey, you've already subscribed. So no pressure, but we love to have you be a subscriber. All right. So having said all of that, I love anytime we have the opportunity to have Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh with us live in the studio. She is a brilliant mind in the field of autism. I believe the preeminent expert in the field of autism. And she's been working in this field for 40 years. That's insane because she started as a child, and I'm not kidding. But an amazing woman with amazing insight into what our kids need, what our families need, what our parents need. So we want to encourage you to look at the entire library of Ask Dr. Doreen questions. On our new website, at the very top, there is a button that says Topics. When you click on it, right now the only choice that you have is to search Ask Dr. Doreen Topics, because what's coming soon is one where you can search Dr. Temple Grandin's answers to things. But if you click on the one that is for Ask Dr. Doreen, it gives you subjects. And then underneath the subjects, it gives you the title of the question And if you click on it, you can go right to it. So if you're looking for a video specifically about toilet training and you want to know what to do if your child is smearing things on the wall, right? You go to toilet training and you go through the questions and you see that there is one that's exactly about that. When you click on the question, it takes you exactly to that moment in the video. You don't have to search through years of videos. It's there. But we have an episode that we think is really particularly fabulous that we're going to show you this morning. And don't forget, we're going to be back live afterwards with Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. But my friends, it's time for Ask Dr. Doreen.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen.
Dr. Doreen coming up right now. Here it comes. Good morning and welcome to Ask Dr. Doreen. We're here with Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Good morning.
Good morning. We haven't had the pleasure of your company for a couple of weeks, but I know you've been super busy.
Just traveling. If I'm here, I'll always do the show, but I've been out of town a lot. So.
Yes, but it's always a thrill to have you
Thank
here.
Thank you very much. It's so good to be back.
For people who don't know you, you are truly, I believe, the preeminent expert in the field of autism in our time, but there is no other time for autism as far as I'm concerned. This is the time. You really have done a huge service to the autism community, and I always like to remind families, in case they don't know this about you, you're founder of CARD, but also the founder for Autism Care and Treatment Today, a charity that has given away multiple, I think now, millions of dollars to families for grants for treatment and for things that they need, whether that's a helmet or a trampoline or medicine or whatever. There's no other organization that I'm aware of in the world that does that. But you also look at things, you look at our children, you look at the whole child. You're one of the first people to really do that, especially in the field of ABA. And you look at the whole family and really treat the whole family, and that's what you do at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. I'm incredibly grateful to you.
Thank you
and I
so
know
much,
that so many people around the world and so many of our viewers are grateful to you. So that's who's answering your questions today, just to give you a reference point. All right, I'm going to dive right in, though. We do have to give a disclaimer. After I've said all these wonderful things about how brilliant Dr. Grand-Pichet is, I do have to say that there is no one in this field or any other field that can give individual specific advice in this format. So we all come from that understanding. It would be a disservice to whoever is asking the question to think that you could, without having met them, give individual specific advice. So she's going to give advice of, not even advice, she's going to give information of a general nature about the things that you're inquiring about. But we've all seen how helpful that is, because when you go to the expert that does have eyes on the individual, you're going to get much further because you've got better questions to ask. Right?
Absolutely. We'll do our best.
Okay. I want to start with a question that came in early this morning. Hi, is it better to take my son with autism to a developmental and behavioral pediatrician, or his regular pediatrician is just fine?
Right. So depending on what the issue is, I would say a regular pediatrician is just fine. A developmental pediatrician is necessary when you want to do testing. So developmental pediatricians are actually pretty different from regular pediatricians because they do a lot of testing of where your child is and if they're falling behind, and if they are, developmentally, how many things are falling behind or what's going on. Aside from that, though, for regular illnesses and stuff like that, any pediatrician is going to be the same pretty much.
Yeah. But a regular pediatrician, correct me if I'm wrong, they cannot diagnose autism.
They can
flag it? Or
no, they can. They can.
Really?
Yes, they can. They just are not trained to enough, but they can.
They can.
Yes, and a developmental pediatrician is going to be much more accurate because they have much more training with the developmental stages of children and so on, testing in general. Like a regular pediatrician will not be able to administer an ADOS, which is the gold standard test for diagnosis.
Okay.
A developmental pediatrician will.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a difference. But a regular pediatrician, if they have experience, they can certainly diagnose.
I think it's certainly important to be with a regular pediatrician who has an open mind and will allow conversation to go two ways. I have stayed with the same pediatrician for Jem way longer. We didn't move for way longer than we should have because I wanted to be with this pediatrician because he will ask me questions. And he listens to what I say and I listen to what he says, and he will tell me, I don't have enough information about that. I'm going to go to a colleague who will tell me.
That's wonderful.
And that has made all the difference.
That's fantastic.
I wish that upon every person, and I know how rare that is. I
That's
know a lot of
very rare.
parents that don't have that.
Yeah.
But I encourage you to find it.
That's really good. I gave up on pediatricians. So I have 3 kids, as you know, and they're aged out now. But when they were younger, I changed pediatricians a couple of times just because I was very sensitive to the whole vaccination issue and I didn't want to vaccinate my kids around illness. And also I was very sensitive to the fact that every time they were ill, the pediatricians wanted to give them antibiotics right away. And I didn't want to if not necessary. And so it's those types of things that become more important for our kids, I think, are like, please don't use antibiotics unless you need to, because now you're just destroying all the good flora. But, and pediatricians, unfortunately, this is a big difference. I think developmental pediatricians do use different billing codes, so they actually spend more time with your child than a regular pediatrician who really has about 12 minutes to spend time with you, which is pretty crazy. But, so I gave up. I stopped. I switched so many times that my husband at the time was like, why do you even go to these guys? So I started using just urgent care.
Yeah.
I think from the time my kids were like, I don't know, 5 or 6, I just started using various doctors at urgent care.
Well, and I know that a lot of people are forced to do that to get any kind of continual care because our healthcare system is very interesting right now. Very interesting right now.
Yeah.
But if you can find
a good pediatrician,
who listens, and also can I brag about my pediatrician for a minute?
Absolutely.
They have iPads that have all of the information, and whoever is on duty gets the iPad.
It's amazing.
So if I call and it's not my child's actual doctor, and I can call at 1 o'clock in the morning, the calling service takes the information down. I get a phone call back within a half an hour from a pediatrician from our this is why I fought to get from the office, from that actual office, who is sitting there with my son's entire chart. There was at least one time that we needed to go to the emergency room, and they called ahead and told the emergency room that we were coming so we didn't have to sit in chairs. And this was super important to me because we almost lost Jem when he was 2 because he had the rotavirus, and we didn't have a pediatrician who did this. We went to the hospital because every bit of fluid was leaving his body. They had us sit in chairs for 4 hours. When they finally got us into the emergency room, they said, we need to take him by ambulance to another hospital right now. We're losing this child. And I thought, and I was like, well, so as I was interviewing pediatricians, I was like, what happens if I need to go to the emergency room? And they were like, no, we call ahead for you. And I was like, I am with you people. And they have been
amazing.
The best.
That's awesome.
It's been worth everything.
Awesome.
I encourage everyone.
You might want to mention their name so that you can send some business there.
Well, I don't think they're taking new patients
they're
full because
they're
they
so
are
good.
so loved and they are so good. But can I just say, Dr. Morris Yen, I will put that out there. As far as I'm concerned, he walks on water.
That's awesome.
All right. Now, moving on, or do you want to take a break? What do you think?
No, let's
go
on.
All right. Hello, my son is almost 3.5 years old and has had an obsession with alphabet numbers, shapes, and colors since before 12 months old, and is now reading and learning the alphabet in other languages. He didn't really start speaking besides the alphabet and etc. socially until after 3 and still doesn't really answer many questions. I would love to get your opinion, and thank you.
That's wonderful. So you have a hyperlexic child, which is wonderful, and it's always lovely to see our children excel in one area or another, and our children absolutely have some amazing skills. Some of our kids are hyperlexic like this, and that's fantastic to see. Now, your child also has a significant strength with numbers. It isn't as common for the child to be strong both in alphabet and numbers. Usually the child is interested in one or the other. Yeah, but like, you know, he's also obsessed with shapes and colors and everything. So your child is just pretty hungry for knowledge, I think, with visual knowledge, which is very awesome. Concrete visual knowledge is what your child is looking for, which is fabulous. It's lovely, but it is going to be, it's funny because a couple of days ago I was doing an intake of a child, and this was a similar situation where the child was really advanced and had taught himself reading, and the child was very young. And you know, when we're that good at something, we tend to ignore all other things. So my recommendation actually to the family was to reduce his access to reading a little bit because he was not social. And so it's kind of important when they're that young to try to give them a basis that's a little bit more well-rounded so that they have also some social activity and interest in just talking, interacting. I can't say that enough, because all of these types of activities that your child is interested in are the opposite of interacting, right? They are isolating. And so it's sort of important that one thing you could do is that if he really loves alphabet, numbers, shapes, and colors, or those types of things, he can engage in them only when he's with another child. Like what we do also on the playground is, you know, we tell our kids you can go on the slide, but only if you go with another child. So this will really encourage him to interact and take turns, and this is a fantastic thing. Anytime our kids are good at something and interested in something, you have to use that and just kind of make it contingent on socializing. So if you have another child and the two of you can play an alphabet game or a number game or do colors together or shapes or whatever, that is fantastic. And that will really help increase his social behavior.
You know, my mind is, we've already started working on our toy guide for the year, so my mind is all about toys and games right now. But immediately I thought about, there's a game called Hullabaloo that is out from Cranium. Yeah. And there is a video version of Hullabaloo.
Yeah.
And it comes with different colored shaped squares that you throw around your living room, and you put this DVD in, and you can play it with your child, and you can have up to, like, I think 5 children play. And it's hilarious. This guy comes on the screen and he says, okay, everybody stand on a red square. Now, some of them are circles and some of them are, so they have to find the thing. So it'd be very reinforcing for him for that, because he'd be looking for and each one has an animal on it, right?
Cool.
And then on the screen, it shows all these children playing with them. So everybody, it's sort of like Twister deconstructed, right?
Cool.
And so then the guy will go, okay, everybody needs to find an animal.
Yeah.
But you have to walk to an animal spot like a monkey.
Yeah.
And so everybody has to make the noises of a monkey. So it's building that creativity.
Right.
And there's parts of it where you have to be social with each other.
Perfect.
And do things. I love this game. I don't even know that they actually still sell that game, but a lot of times you can find a used one on eBay. It's great.
That's awesome.
And it would be the things that he likes, but put directly into a social situation.
Exactly.
First with you, then with another child.
Exactly.
There you go. Hullabaloo Cranium. I'm all in the game phase right now. That's all I can think about is toys this morning.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, we should take a short break, and then we're going to come back with more of your questions. Stick with us. Parent token economies are a great way to get to good behavior with your child. So first of all, let's talk about what is a token economy. It's just a visual representation of reinforcement or a reward that's going to come later on for behavior that you've done now. So I've got a couple examples here of token economies that I want to show you. But one of the most important things to remember with a token economy is that it's essential that whatever the child is working for be meaningful to them. So here, this is a 2-part token economy. I've got a list of things for the child to pick from, to pick what they want to work for. So the child would pick off the one they want, put it on their other token economy, and you can see it says, I'm working for a play date. What a great thing to work for. And as this child progresses through their day at school, every time they
do a task and they do a good job, they're going to get a token to put on this token economy. And we've got a rule in place for them that says maybe you have to get 3 tokens in order to get that reward, which today is a play date. And as the child gets better, we're going to make it harder and harder. Maybe next week it's going to be 4 tokens to get the play date. This is another token economy here. This is a task completion token economy, so every time the child completes a task that there's a picture of, they can peel off a token and put it on to demonstrate that they have completed that task. Again, it's essential that they get a really wonderful, meaningful reward for having gotten these tokens. Using a token economy can be much simpler than this too, because you can download them to put a free app on any one of your devices. Right here on my phone, I've got a free app, Easy Kid Tokens, and when my child does a task and completes it, and he can specify what the stickers are. In this case, it is a ladybug, and when he gets 3 of them, then he's going to get his reward. This is a really simple way to take something with you when you're going on an outing and make sure that your child is staying on task and getting rewarded for the things that they do. It leads to good behavior. One of the most frightening things there is when your child wanders away or elopes.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. We're here with Dr. Doreen Grampichet, and she is answering your questions. So we're going to a question that came in on Facebook, and you guys are writing in a lot of questions. I'm going to get to as many of them as we can. Charlene wants to know, how do you calm the child down when having a huge meltdown? Hugging, talking, quiet time in the room with us, toys, blowing pinwheel doesn't help my one twin. At times, we are unsure what triggers these meltdowns, as times they are just random, and thank you.
Okay, so the thing about behavior is that it increases when it is rewarded, and it's really important to understand that. So any kind of behavior that is rewarded or that is accompanied by, and let me just define rewarded, any type of behavior that is followed by a positive experience will increase. And that's really, really important to understand. So if your child is tantruming and you hug him, tantruming will increase. So you don't want to give a positive experience when the child's tantrum or other challenging behavior has started.
Even though that the hugging doesn't calm the tantrum down, it still will help to maintain it.
It will not only maintain it, it will increase it.
There we go.
So it's our natural, it's the opposite of our natural instinct, because when our children scream or cry or tantrum, as mothers, our natural instinct is just to go over and hug them.
Yes, of course.
And to try to distract them and to try to play with them and all that sort of stuff. And it just is the wrong thing to do. So you can do all that if you can predict the behavior from coming. So you can try to distract if the tantrum has not quite started yet. It's at the very, very beginning. Let's say the child starts to get fussy and you recognize, oh, a tantrum is about to come. Then you can do distracting activities if they're really distracting. But the minute a tantrum starts, you need to ignore it. I mean, I hate to tell you that. It's a weird thing. It's the opposite of our instinct, as I said, but you need not to give attention to it. Now, the question of what is causing the tantrum becomes very, very important in this case, and I understand that it's hard for you to figure it out. That's one of the things that behavior analysts do. It's called a functional assessment or a functional behavior assessment, is where we figure out what the function is. And the function of a behavior is the most important thing. Let's say a child could tantrum because they want access to something. If that is the case, like I want a toy or I want to go outside or whatever it is, if that's the case, then what you do is you prevent the child from accessing the thing they're tantruming for, because you don't want to reward the tantrum, but at the same time you teach the child a more adaptive way to ask for that thing. So for example, a child wants a toy and they hit, you make sure that the child does not get the toy when they hit. Instead, you teach the child to say toy or can I have the toy, and then you give them the toy. Same thing with like leaving a room or going outside or whatever it is. Whatever the reason that the child is tantruming, you just want to make sure that it's not an effective tantrum. It doesn't get what the child wants. Instead, you then teach the child to communicate or even touch an icon or do something that's appropriate rather than tantrum. Then you give massive reward. And that's very, very important to the whole formula as well. You're not just ignoring, you're trying to teach the child to actually ask for things more appropriately so that you can give a lot of reward. Anytime you take reward away from a particular situation, you have to give it back in a different situation. And so if you stop rewarding the tantrum by not, giving him hugs and tickles and so on, you need to increase the hugs and tickles and so on for when he does ask appropriately or just when he's calm.
Yeah.
So that's really important. Those are the kind of basics of ABA.
It's so hard when you're in the parent's skin to see. I always tell the story of that Jem used to hit his head on the kitchen floor. It was the first main thing that I was worried about when we started with Card, and I was like, this is what I want you to help us with. And I got really paranoid that we were probably 2-3 weeks into therapy and he wasn't doing it when the therapists were there. And that made me really paranoid. I was like, why is that, right? And then one day the therapist was finishing up their paperwork, about to leave, and I put a demand on Jem. He fell to the kitchen floor and started whacking his head on the kitchen floor. And my reaction as a mother was, I freaked completely out. And what I was doing was I would pick him up and I would rub his head because he would start to cry. It hurt. And I would rub his head and I would take him over to our big, comfortable rocking chair and I would rock him and sing him and rub his head and give him a little sippy with lemonade and sometimes a cookie.
Yeah.
Right? And to me, that's what you do as a mom. Your kid hits his head, that's what you do. And you couldn't have convinced me that I was causing the head hitting on the floor. You couldn't have.
Right.
Because I could not see that at the time. But Card didn't say to me, did you realize that you're causing this? They just said, we'll be ready the next time this happens. And the therapist that was there, the first time that it happened, I said, I'll bet you're out the door. And he said, no, I'm going to stay and talk you through this. And I said, no, I'm going to leave the room and you're going to fix it, right? Because that's what I wanted. He said, no, it doesn't work that way. You need to understand how to do this. So I'm just going to be the voice in your ear. First thing he did was secure the area so that Jem couldn't hurt his head anymore. You guys had me put a baby gate in so we could close the kitchen off.
Right.
So got him out of the kitchen, closed the baby gate. Now he doesn't have access. Every other room in the house had carpeting. So he couldn't get in, and he stood there and he rattled the gate, and he said, and I said, what do I do? And he said, come on over here, we're going to dust the television.
Yeah.
And I went, dust the television? What is wrong
Who
with
was
you?
it?
It was Ryan Bergstrom.
Yeah.
And and he looked like he was 12. He was probably 21, but he looked like he was 12, and I was like, dust the television? My child is freaking out, and he's like, it's okay. We're going to dust the television. And of course, Jem followed us to the television and started pulling on my pants. And he's screaming and yelling. And I'm like, what do I do? And he's like, now go over and water the plants. Water the plants? What are you, nuts? And I, this did not feel right for me. And I started to like laugh hysterically. And I was like, and then I started to cry. I was like a Chekhov play all in one little thing. And at one point I said, I don't think I can do this. I think I'm going to wet my pants. Right? And he said, you're doing great. And he said, you're getting tired. And he's getting tired. Listen to him. He's starting to wind down. You've gone 22 minutes in this tantrum. And he goes, but he's about to end. And he said, if you hang in with me a few more minutes, it's possible this is the last time he'll hit his head on the kitchen floor. If you give in now, all you'll taught him is that he has to go this long plus 20 more minutes, and the next time will be harder. So can you hang in for 2 more minutes? I don't know, I'll try. Within 2 minutes, my son stopped crying and said, Mama, and that's the first time I had heard Mama in a long, long time. And Ryan was there and he said, turn now, hug him, give him all the things you wanted to do before, but give it now. And that was the last time my son hit his head on the kitchen floor.
It's crazy.
But see, I could not have done that
without him
there talking me through it, because to me it didn't make sense. And you could not have convinced me that he was hitting his head on the floor But now I look at it and I go, well, that makes total sense. I asked him to do something and he didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
He'd much rather have cookies and lemonade and mama singing to him and my undivided attention. And he knew if he hit his head on the kitchen floor 4 times and cried, that's what he was going to get.
Right.
Can you imagine if he
I
was
know.
3? What if I had let that continue on for another 10 years?
Right. Well, I mean, that's what we do. You know, that's the normal thing that we do. And kids only over time learn this, typically developing kids, right? But it's a lot of kids have these types of behaviors when their children are 5, 6, 7, you know, like it goes on, even with typically developing kids is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But,
yes.
and they learn, and then when they're adults, they tantrum in different ways.
Yes.
I mean, you know,
Oh, yeah.
or they sulk, or like that sort of behavior is where it starts. It's from childhood. And it's super hard for parents. I completely know what you're talking about. And I went through this with my own kids where I had to like sit outside the room and prevent myself from going in because it would be too reinforcing. But that's what you have to do.
And once you start to get that, it really changed the way my mind looked at everything, and I still get it wrong. I still get it wrong sometimes. But it did change the way I started looking at things about going, okay, what is it that he wants when he's acting out? I have to be careful not to give him that. But that piece that you just said, I think a lot of people leave out, that you have to take that reinforcer and put it someplace else as a reward for something you do want to see.
Right.
And I think a lot of people forget that and think they just have to be a drill sergeant.
No.
It's not that.
In fact, if you are just a drill sergeant, the whole thing will fail. Because the child, because all of us need a baseline level of reinforcers in our world. And it's just a matter of learning how to get them with appropriate behavior. If you don't get reinforcers because all you do is bad behavior, then you're just going to it's becoming a very aversive life for you, right? So we have to figure out ways to give the reinforcers for just calmness.
Yeah.
So like not tantruming. And there are times when our kids are not tantruming. And then for positive types of behaviors in addition to the calmness. But it is, I know it's hard, but that's what you have to do.
But I think, you know, more and more I want to be talking about that other side of ABA, that where you give the reinforcer for the good things, because I see a lot of times, there was just another article in the last week that somebody put out, a mom saying, you know, I know I'm going to take flack for this, but, you know, here's why I don't like ABA. And she said, if I have to explain to you why we shouldn't be training our children the way we train dogs, then I don't know what to say to you. And what I wanted to write to her was, oh, then I'm sure you've told your employer that you don't need a paycheck to come to work.
Right.
We all respond to reinforcements.
This is not about, yes, when we simplify it, it looks like the same thing you do with dogs, definitely. And there's nothing wrong with that. Because at that time, our child is not able to receive more information than what we're giving. This is also why part of ABA, you simplify the command very, very much, right? So that the child can comprehend it. But as we become adults, absolutely. I mean, the paycheck, are you kidding? Everything, every aspect of behavior, Shannon, is reinforced. Why do we do this show? Because there's a lot of people calling in, and this is reinforcing to you and I.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I was talking to Cecilia yesterday, and I was saying, I get a lot of reward from doing this show, but one of my primary reasons is because I get to spend an hour with Shannon. And that's rewarding for me. Everything we do is reward-based. If you think about it, if you think about it, guys, everything you do is in order to avoid something bad or to gain access to something good. And by the way, avoiding something bad is reinforcing.
Yes.
So they're both reinforcers. So, the reason, let me just take this parent's example, the reason that you take your child when they're tantruming and that you hug them and kiss them and try to distract them is because the child's tantrum is aversive to you and you are trying to avoid hearing your child scream and cry. It's all about reward. That's all we do. All human behavior is controlled by reward.
Okay, really quick before we move on, though, can we just talk about the difference, because it was very enlightening to me, because, we have tantrums, and then we have meltdowns.
Yes.
And when somebody said to me, when there's a meltdown, you also have to look at what the sensory things are.
Absolutely.
It was eye-opening to me.
Yes.
Because I was like, why sometimes does he just freak out and he gets upset and we kind of get through it, but then other times it's the full-on and the snot and the hysteria and knocking things over. And when we started being detectives looking for what was sensory on board with that, it was amazing to me.
So I look at sensory as just part of the functions. So when you look at, there is one function called automatic, which to me is really all about sensory and pain. And what it means is that something, and it is always something, is causing it. Again, the function means what is causing it. And the cause can be definitely a sensory issue. It's just like us. It's like us. If you think about it, if you have a headache, you're much more likely to have a tantrum or a meltdown.
Yeah.
It's exact human behavior. So, you know, the sensory aspect of things is very important to our kids. Is there a sensory stimulus that's disturbing the child, putting him on edge? Is it? I always say that if you have children on days when they're going through more, whether it's loud environments, a visit to the doctor's office, I don't know, something, you know, they have to behave very well, whatever it is, on those days, reinforce more and reduce your demands.
Yeah, there you go. All right, I want to move on to this question because I think it's super important. Sam has written in, and I guess it's a many parts, so I'm going to have to find the other parts, but she says, what is the best therapy for autism? My daughter is 20 months old, has all the symptoms of autism, but I don't know how to help her right now. Still waiting for the specialist to call back. I'm afraid it's getting too late. What's that early intervention now that I can do to help her? And she says, please help.
Okay, so you need to start, the early intervention is ABA, it's Applied Behavior Analysis, and I don't know where you are, but if you are somewhere in the LA area or you can get to the LA area, I will do the diagnosis for you. I'll fit you in somehow, so contact me. If you're not in the LA area, then I think you, even as you're waiting for a diagnosis to be certain, if you're seeing symptoms, then I need you to do two things. One is go on here, which is skills. It is skillsforautism.com, and start a profile for your child and start answering questions. Skills is everything I'm telling you is extremely inexpensive. So go on here and just fill out a profile for your child and start answering the questions. If your child's below 2, you're going to get the questionnaire done in a couple of hours. So you can get the whole thing done. And what Skills does is it gives you what your child is developmentally supposed to do as a question. Does your child do this? And you just say yes or no. And it just takes you through a whole array of questions. And everything that you say no to links to a lesson. So it's sort of like, oh, the child's falling behind on this particular language, let's say, or eye contact or whatever it is. And then that becomes a lesson. And that produces for you now a curriculum of things that have to be taught to your child. Now the question becomes, how do I teach it? So now you have to go to IBT, which is the Institute for Behavior Training. Thank you, Samantha, just put it up. ibehavioraltraining.com. Now on IBT, you will start training yourself and whoever else you can help, who can help you. Could be friends, neighbors, grandparents, your spouse, whoever it is, just get them on IBT. And these are extremely inexpensive modules. You can go into the parent section. You can also go into the provider section, which is a little bit more complicated and intense. I would start with the parent section and just go through the modules and educate yourself about the techniques that we use in teaching. And the two together will help you kind of start a program and start teaching your child. The other thing you need to do, which is in Skills, is what's called the CIFA, which is part of a behavior intervention plan, BIP Builder. The BIP Builder, I'm sure if your child is like 2 and you're starting to see some symptoms, you might also be having challenging behaviors. The BIP Builder, together with the CIFA, which is CARD's Indirect Functional Assessment, will help you figure out how to deal with the behaviors. what you need to do with the challenging behaviors. But IBT, the training that you get on IBT, will teach you all the basics of behavior analysis, so you'll really know how to deal with any challenging behavior. That's kind of where you need to go.
And it's going to feel overwhelming. So if you just went, oh, I feel overwhelmed, I just want to hug you and say everybody has felt that way too, and you're going to be okay, and your child is going to be okay. And there is a sense of urgency, right? You're at 20 months. You are not too late. You're in the window. But there's that old saying that they say, when would now be a good time?
Yeah.
Whatever it is, now is the best time to start. Every day that you wait is a day that your child gets further behind. And that's what we want to stop, the getting further behind, and start to get caught up.
Definitely.
20 months is actually compared,
ideal.
Compared to the average, it's way early.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that you can sit back and go, oh, we're early, we don't have to do anything. When would now be a good time? Now, today.
And I'll tell you that at 20 months, you're going to pretty much be dealing with the following types of things. I don't know where your child's language skills are, but you'll have some language lessons. You will have some executive functioning lessons. You'll probably have a whole bunch of play lessons. If your child's motor is delayed, you might have a couple of those. I don't know.
There's a lot of issues. I found the other part with being able to chew and swallow solid
feeding.
food. So,
so I'm not. That sort of stuff there is some instruction on that in the motor curriculum of skills, so you can see that. But also, if you want, there are very specific, I think the best way, depending on where you are, the sooner you get the diagnosis, you will then get access to a BCBA, a board certified behavior analyst, and health coverage, health insurance coverage.
You need that now.
You need that as soon as possible. And so when you get all of that together, the BCBAs are trained, most of them are trained to very specifically focus on feeding as an issue. Now, feeding is really easy. It's not hard. Don't let it freak you out at all. It's a very easy concept. And I'll give you the very basic trick to it. The trick is that you take let's say you take 1/4 teaspoon of a food that your child is refusing to eat, and you take a bowl of what the child likes, and you give 1/4 teaspoon of the negative item followed by a lot of the positive item. And then gradually over time, you will reverse that so that the child is starting to eat more and more of the negative item for less and less of the positive item. And it sounds complicated, but it's actually pretty simple. But there are some other things that we add to it that help, like if the child tantrums and screams and cries, you remove reinforcers. So for instance, you will now shut off the TV, or turn the child around so that they're not gaining access to a lot of visual reinforcers. These are the things that BCBAs are trained to do. And feeding is not something I would recommend a parent try on their own. I really do think that it's probably important to get a BCBA involved to help you with feeding.
Absolutely. And there's also the mechanism of chewing, which you'll get some of those lessons in skills, but you're going to want to make sure that everything is okay, that they are able to chew.
Absolutely.
There isn't something medically holding them up. But starting that process of getting the diagnosis so you can get access to ABA is critical.
So let us know where you are. I'm licensed in a whole bunch of states, and we do diagnosis in other locations as well. So just kind of let us know where you are. Maybe we can help you.
Fabulous. I'm not giving you a break, and that's terrible.
It's all right. We have a couple
boot me. Okay, so this is a fascinating question, though. Wingman has written in on YouTube and says, hey, I was diagnosed with autism in April of this year. I take care of kids that have autism and other emotional and behavioral problems. Should I inform my employer that I have autism?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is an awesome question. I don't, unless you need accommodation, I don't know that you need to be honest, because I think that despite the fact that we all hope to be open-minded about it, I think that a lot of employers might change the way they look at you if they know. So I don't know that you need to, unless there are certain things about the job that you need accommodations for. if you need accommodations for it, then yes, you need to tell your employer.
There you go. And you have a right to those accommodations.
Absolutely.
Okay, another YouTube question from Love Life. They say, my son is 3 and hates haircuts.
Oh, yeah.
It's a full-blown meltdown. What can I do to help him so it's not so traumatic? And it's that time of year.
Yes, yes. I know haircuts are a big one, and it has to do with the sensory, I think, with a lot of the kids, it has to do with the sensory feeling of getting a haircut. Sometimes first of all, if possible, you will want to reduce some of the things that most kids fear. So here, basically what we're going to do is you're going to increase the reinforcers, and you're going to decrease all the negative aspects of a haircut wherever possible. So keep it short, like keep the haircut appointments short. Go in at a time when it's not very busy, so that the people at the salon can really focus on your child. Some of the salons are pretty cool in that they have like those cars that kids can sit in, or it's like a child's clinic, so they're more fun. They have TVs for the kids so that the child can actually watch something while they're getting the haircut. I highly recommend that. I would take in a whole bunch of reinforcers with me. For instance, one of the things you could do is go to the 99-cent store, get a bunch of little toys, wrap them up in aluminum foil so that the child has to actually open each one, and like you're distracting the child. Make sure they do not use those shear things that make a razor noise.
Yeah.
Sometimes they try to use those on the back of boys' hair.
Buzz them.
Buzz things. Do not use that. Just scissors only, and just make sure that the person who's working with your child knows that they need to keep it short, the appointment time, that they need to allow you to give a lot of reinforcers in between. I would definitely make sure that there's either an iPad or a TV available for the child, and that's about all you can do.
See, I'm in Toyland still again. They have those toys that it's a ball that's covered in paper or ribbon.
Exactly.
And you have to pull the ribbon, and then it unveils something, and you pull more, and it unveils something else. And then you get to the middle, and it's got a toy or a doll in the middle. Those keep kids occupied through all kinds of things. But there's more and more barbers now that will advertise and say that they have somebody in their shop that's particularly good. We have the Jim the barber from Scotland that we've had on the show a couple of different times, that he's started a whole corps of barbers that he trains. He'll get down on the floor with them. If the child is playing with a toy and gets down off the chair, he does whatever he has to do.
Yeah.
And that's been in the news so much that there are more and more places that will do it. I would say call around.
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons why I always say have a global support group and a local support group, because if you ask your local support group who's really good with cutting hair, there's some mom who already knows who by you. They're like, oh, you got to take him Bill. Bill has the magic sauce and can do this.
It's so true.
It's an amazing thing. Okay, Ariana wants to know, do you have any tips for someone with Asperger's going back to school?
I mean, again, Ariana, it's the same thing. It's always the same thing. It's, identify the stressors. I guess we refer to them in regular life as stressors. Identify the demands, identify the things that are difficult, and then try to increase rewards when you are exposed to those difficult things. If you really think about it, that's what we do in life, right? So it's like every aspect of it. And you say school, so I'm not really sure if it's middle school, high school, college. They all have different things going. Let's say when we're in college, you will choose your classes according to your own stress level. So some people will never choose a class that's 8 a.m. Others will make sure that their classes are balanced so they don't have all their classes on one day, that sort of thing in college. Or you might have social issues or social anxieties, so you should try to reinforce yourself on days when those types of events are occurring. If it's high school, you're dealing with things like, or middle school even, you're dealing with things that you haven't been exposed to, which are things like, oh, I have a class today, but my homework is going to be due next week on Thursday. So then it becomes all these planning things, which you didn't have to deal with in elementary school. So planning becomes a big stressor. And the two things that you do is you practice the task ahead of time. So you break it down and you practice it so it's a little bit easier for you, and you just, you have more practice, and you rehearse it essentially. And then you make sure that on those particular days you are heavily reinforced. So I remember whenever I had a very this is a great example. When I was in college, every time I had a really difficult exam and I would leave the test thinking I did good, I would immediately go to like my favorite frozen yogurt place and reinforce myself. That's really all you can do. It's about trying to find out as much as possible so that you can prep the child or the adult. You can give them rehearsal. You can break down the task. You can teach them tools to getting through the tasks. And then it's a matter of just making sure that they have heavier reinforcers on those days.
Okay, Jill on Facebook has written in and says, what if you are now in crisis and have received a late diagnosis at 7? Because we were talking about the 20-month-old and how now is a good time. So they're in crisis now and gotten a late diagnosis at 7, which we're seeing so much more of.
Absolutely, and that's okay too, Jill. I mean, you have to realize that even with us, and we're like the oldest provider, the biggest provider, and I've been doing this probably longer than most people. Like, I've been treating kids for 40 years, right? And we have always been around for very young, and we've always pushed early intervention, right? Even for us, our average age right now at CARD is closer to 4, right. Which is entry age. Yeah. 4 or 5 even. So it's
the national average, I think, is 6.
There you go. So don't worry if you are 7. ABA, behavioral interventions, work significantly, and if you are 7 years old, these techniques are going to be fantastic for you. So you need to get your child into a good ABA program, and that's all it is. And I understand that you're in crisis, and when you are in crisis, if you have health insurance, they will offer you providers, and they will tell the provider that this child is in crisis, and the provider is obligated to start your child faster. So we have these things with payers, with insurance companies, where if it's a typical case, we have 30 days to have contact with you. If it's an emergency case, we might have 7 days or even 24 hours. So depending on what the crisis is, if you have health insurance, they have to help you right away.
But you've got to say it. You've got to say, we're in crisis and I need help. For Jill, and I can't speak to every single provider that's out there, I can tell you, you can go to centerforautism.com, go to the locations tab, see if there is a CARD office that's close to you. If there is, then she would go back to the centerforautism.com, click the enroll here. But I'm not sure on there where she says crisis. Should she call the office that's closest?
Well, I mean, the first thing that happens is you'll be talking to someone in admissions pretty fast. So as soon as you talk to someone there, ask them if there's a wait in that office. If that office can't staff you very, very fast, they will refer you to another provider.
Okay.
Like, we have to, there are lots and lots of providers depending on where you are.
Okay. So important, take a look at that, or you can write back into us and tell us where in the world you are so we can help to figure that out with you. Okay, big question, there's not enough time, we're almost out of time, but Natasha wants to know what causes autism.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, that laugh was inappropriate. It's just that is like, that's what we all want to know,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely. And I think if you want, I'll take 2 minutes to kind of touch on that.
Go for it.
So, the way that autism is diagnosed has completely nothing to do with what causes it. The way that we diagnose autism is based on a bunch of symptoms. If these symptoms exist, then we have autism. And the symptoms are generally in the area of social behavior deficits, language deficits, and then the presence of what we call stereotypic repetitive behaviors. And if there's enough symptoms within those, then you end up having a diagnosis. But essentially, what causes it, the belief is, a lot of people still say we don't know. But the general science is pointing to toxicity interacting with genetic predisposition. So what that means is that there seems to be a genetic predisposition. That means a series of genes have to be in place in order for the environment to produce these symptoms. And those genes, we've only identified, I think, 6 or 7 of what we think will be 30 genes. So we don't know enough about the genetic changes that occur in our children, but we know that there's a genetic component. There are many, many families now who have 2 children or 3 or more on the spectrum. Now, what causes it is some sort of environmental insult, some sort of thing in the environment that interacts with whatever the genetic factors are. Personally, just looking at the research, and this is my strong belief, is that the genetic component, what it leads to is a low redox factor. That means our children are detoxifying slower than we are. So when they're exposed to toxins, they can't eliminate the toxins as fast as we can. And the toxins, in my opinion, are everything. There's so many toxins in our environment that I can't even begin. Like everything from pesticides to the use of plastics to everything. We have a lot of toxins in our environment. We're just able to detoxify fast enough, and I don't think our children are. So that's sort of in a nutshell. But in general, if you look at the science right now, there's just so much literature in so many different areas that the answer, unfortunately, is still we don't know.
And there we have it. Lovely to have your 2 minutes on that.
Do you provide care services to someone with autism? Recently, more and more children are being diagnosed with the condition and getting the support they need as awareness grows. But what happens to these children as they grow up? It's estimated that over 500,000 youth with autism will turn 18 in the next decade, and they'll be faced with a very difficult reality. As children with autism grow up, their services start to disappear or become very difficult to access. Things like medical care, mental health counseling, vocational training, and more. All services that are still desperately needed. The loss of support that youth with autism face as they grow up is so severe that it's referred to in the autism community as falling off a cliff. Adults with autism need the same level of support they had as children to avoid falling off the services cliff. Introducing Skills Living, the web-based software designed specifically to help transitioning youth and adults with autism so they can avoid the cliff and instead fly to success. With Skills Living, help your learner with autism develop the skills they need in all the critical areas of adult life, including self-control, planning, and problem-solving, effective communication, performing life skill tasks for independent living, acquiring and maintaining employment or other meaningful activities, developing and maintaining social skills and relationships, accessing transportation and public services, and being safe. Skills Living includes a comprehensive assessment, a data collection mobile app, behavior intervention plan builder, and automatic progress reporting. It also provides a complete curriculum addressing 16 key areas spanning the entire range of functioning adulthood. Skills Living is easy to use and can be implemented by schools, parents, and autism service providers. Call or click today for your free demo and see how Skills Living can help your learner with autism avoid the cliff and instead reach their fullest potential. Skills Living. Wish, learn, become.
Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, and we're at the ABCs and XYZs of Special Needs Conference. And this year, for the first time, they've got something really remarkable. It's the Entrepreneurial Boutique. These are all items that have been made and are being sold by individuals who have special needs. So we're going to do a little shopping and talk to some of these fabulous entrepreneurs. Come on.
My name is Molly Rarick, and I'm founder of Breed's Gift. We're a nonprofit that serves teens and adults with special needs, like Chase here. We were founded in 2013 and serve people in the Conejo Valley, Santa Barbara, and LA.
Our main objective is to give our participants the skills they need to gain a more independent life.
My name is Shelley Cox, and Lisa Zalagi and I are founders of Creative Steps and Create Micro Business Enterprises. And the items that we're selling here today are all made by the clients who have passions about what they want to make, and then they get the profits from what they make after we've paid all of the other expenses.
We are here today because my goal is to be independent, and also I would like to share all my artwork, and I would like to sell.
Thinking about at his young age being a businessman, it's amazing. I cannot be more proud.
Say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Hi, welcome back to Autism Live. I'm Lisa Ackerman. We're here doing allergy-free cooking, and I brought my sister with me today.
Jamie Davis, thanks for having me.
A lot of people are asking about an allergy-free breakfast, and breakfast can be full of crap.
But it's full of
cereal.
crap and it's hard to do. We don't have time in the morning. We're in a hurry.
We're going completely nut-free. The recipe is not
personality. We can't do anything about.
Yeah, can't do anything about that. So we're going to start off first with I'm using sorghum and brown rice flour. I find the texture good, and I've added some flaxseed meal. We talked about that last time. Flaxseed meal for poop. Almost every one of our kids has a poop issue. What's next on the recipe is the quinoa flakes, baking powder, cinnamon, and the xanthan gum. It brings the glutinous texture back into the flour, and often what happens with these recipes is they can fall apart. This one holds up nicely. I like it. For the folks that are egg-free, we have a ton of egg replacers. One of those can be the arrowroot starch or bringing back some additional flax seeds. So there's a lot of options to go eggless, but we're going to go egg full in this one. For sweetener, I use the maple syrup. I stay away from refined sugar. What I'm adding now is the coconut milk, maple syrup, and a little bit of the coconut oil. And we're going to add in the raisins, craisins, and chocolate chips at the end. I find that chocolate chips can coax people to eat some really amazing things. When we started, Jeff had 42 food allergies, so we had to get creative in how we cooked. So nuts were a big, big issue. What I like now is that he can tolerate so many more things after start doing this diet. So let me show you how you can deal with this sticky stuff here. You get your fingers really wet, and you can push it down. So my oven has been preheated. It's at 350 degrees. So we're going to just throw this in. Like I said, I like it around 23 minutes, and the magic oven says, I'm done. Looks like, don't you love magic ovens? They're awesome. There we go, pops right out. The texture of these, and it's so pretty, it looks almost like a big chocolate chip cookie, but you actually made it healthy. But you can be my guinea pig. Tell me what you think.
That looks really good.
Doesn't it? So the textures and the colors in there are just beautiful. So the raisins are for you, the chocolate chips are for your kid.
I can't believe it's gluten-free.
I know, right? It doesn't taste like, crap. We're wrapping up another cooking show. If you have feedback, you can email us at autismlive@gmail.com. We're, of course, on Facebook. You could go to facebook.com/autismlive. And of course, TACA now has thousands of recipes. Join me there, and we can cook some more later on. So thanks for joining us.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Nancy Allspot Jackson.
And I'm Shannon Penrod.
And we are joined by the fabulous Lisa Ackerman.
Yes, we just saw
Director.
Lisa.
Yes, we did. And here she is by the miracle of live podcast.
Yes, joining us via
again,
Skype.
Live, via Skype.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, guys. I'm so grateful. It's always fun to hang
You're amazing. I wish that I could be at your house and have you cooking all the time, because that's a happy, warm memory for me. And those recipes are amazing. Our viewers love them. Thank you for doing that. And of course, you know, as you said on the video, you're the founder of the amazing TACA organization. And we asked you to come on this morning really quick because you've got an amazing event that's coming up. So tell us all about your East Coast conference.
Yeah, we have been really fortunate to build some really fun conferences. I think I'm going to almost hit 30 conferences since our inception in 2000. And we've decided so we can help more folks on the East Coast and expand and be at an airport that's really cheap to fly into and a hotel available by public transportation. We've expanded our one-day conference in Georgia to a 3-day conference. And it's March 22nd, 23rd, and 24th next weekend. And we're gathering, we're already hitting records. We're expecting north of 750 people at this effort, and just really to give hope, education, and help.
And you've got an amazing lineup of people. Talk a little bit about who's coming to this conference to speak and present.
I even have visual displays because I'm so excited.
And we have a visual at some point too, but I like yours too. Talk to us.
Well, I mean, Dr. McCullough, followed him forever on the web and read his articles for years, and I'm just over the moon excited to have him come and be part of our efforts and his dedication to functional medicine and overall health, using, you know, one foot in Western med and one foot in alternative medical support to really make a difference. So he's amazing. And this guy, Dr. Daniel Amen, I mean, what more can you ask for? He's a neurologist that actually looks at the brain and is able to prescribe based on thousands and thousands of scans support. And this gal here, over here, there we go. I can do it. Holly Robinson Pete, RJ and Jeff are about 6 months apart in diagnosis, and I met her early on in my journey, and she is just one of the most authentic, inspiring, amazing speakers, and we're just so lucky she's going to come out and join us in Georgia as well. So, I mean, this is top, but I mean, the topics are insane. So my other visual is, you know, we're going to talk about behaviors, speech communication, alternative communications, IEPs, special needs trust, and also how to navigate school. And then on the flip side, hit all the latest medical topics, especially seizures, cerebral folate autoimmunity, aggression, STD, even cannabis, which is a hot topic right now. CBD oils changing the lives for a lot of people not responding to seizures. So the topics are amazing and the resources are great, but you know what I love? Being this visual.
Oh,
the red shirt.
How wonderful.
So these are the fabulous volunteers that will walk around the conference. We have close to 60 volunteers that will be there that are the HOPE team that will be out talking to families, helping them navigate. Once you find TACA, you're never alone. So they will be there full force to help you navigate what sessions you should go to, how to not feel alone. You don't walk in with a bunch of people, but you walk out with a bunch of people helping you. And so I just encourage people to look for the folks, the hope builders in the red shirts, because they're going to help drive you and motivate you and make you feel right at home.
So I said earlier this morning that if people have never been to a TACA conference before, man, they're missing out. You do these twice a year. In the fall, you do it on the West Coast, and in the spring, you do it on the East Coast. How do people get tickets? How do they register for this, Lisa?
Well, TACAnow.org. You go to TACANOW.org and click the conference button. You can see the speaker lineup, register, the whole 9 yards. We are so blessed to have people who've given to support scholarships for families. So we are still accepting scholarships for people who can't afford to register. And what do you want to say, Nancy and Shannon, about our little contest idea?
Yeah, I want to talk a lot about this because Lisa very generously has agreed to give 5 individual tickets, Lisa, or is it what?
5 pairs.
5, that's what I thought, but I didn't want to misspeak.
10 people, 5 pairs.
So
Let's go.
5 pairs of tickets that she wants to give to Autism Live viewers. Now, we had this all set up last night to roll, and it was going to be on Facebook. But as you probably know, Facebook is having a problem this morning. Hopefully, some of you will see this later on today on Facebook. But those of you watching us on YouTube Live and on Periscope and Twitter, later on today, we will put a post on Facebook, and what you will need to do is go and like and comment on the post, and we want you to put your name. Well, obviously, it'll have your Facebook name on there. We want you to say why you want to go. That's going to be the single most important thing. Why do you want to go to this conference? Because we want to send people who want to go. Now, this is for the tickets to the event. You got to get your own way there. But it's worth it, y'all. Okay, see, I already got the Atlanta thing going on here. So it is so worth it. So you will write in and you will tell us why you want to go. You're going to need to, we will contact you, and then you're going to need to be able to give us our email. And I know sometimes people are squeamish, but I will contact you myself. We're going to pick the winners, assuming that Facebook is working later on today and that we can post this. We want to be able to pick the winners by the time that we do tomorrow's show. If Facebook continues to have problems, we'll have to rethink that. Because who knew that Facebook was going to go down today, of all days? But let's all, hope that they're going to be able to get their act together. And so we will announce the winners on tomorrow's show if all goes well. If not, then we'll have to email people. So again, you need to go later on to Autism Live. There will be a Facebook post, and we will include the instructions as part of the post on Autism Live on Facebook. You'll have to like the post, and then you need to post why you want to go. And this is the money thing, right? We want to hear why this is so important to you, because we're going to pick 5 winners who will get a pair of tickets to be able to go. So that's you and a friend that can go. And we just want to thank you, Lisa, for being so generous. Now, you had also mentioned that there might be some people who can't get to the spring conference and who want to go to the fall conference. So Lisa generously said if you want to be able to go to either one, you can post that. So please specify, I want to go to Atlanta because, or I want to go, the other one
Where's the fall conference, Lisa? And what city and when?
October 18th, 19th, and 20th in Costa Mesa, California.
Okay.
And that's coming up, and that I can't wait for. But do you mind if I say one thing about dads?
Go for it.
Go ahead.
Okay. Dudes, testosterone is there. It's not just a chick fest. So over 45% of our attendees are male, and we really want dads to come out, hold the hands of their spouse, significant other, and join us too. I just wanted to be very known that we love having TACA dads, autism dads there, and we welcome family members, aunts, uncles, grandparents to come along and join to be part of the tribe to help their child with autism.
Okay, very good.
And honestly, you will come back with so much information. Your batteries will be refreshed. The whole parent thing and being able to connect with other parents, no one does that like TACA does. It is amazing when you walk in there and there's all those people in that fabulous t-shirt and they are there to embrace you literally and figuratively and to help you with whatever you need, because Lisa's got that figured out.
Yes, you do, Lisa.
The mentorship thing and making sure that people do not feel like they are alone. Girl, you have that.
It's just the birds of a feather flock together. This team is really amazing, and I consider both of you part of this team. You've been spreading hope and giving cheer and information and support for years, and together we get this accomplished.
Well, we sure appreciate you, Lisa. And again, you can go to tacanow.org to find out more information about the conference and register if you want to register on your own, or if you want to try to win tickets. Look on Facebook later on today. Go to Autism Live on Facebook. You will see a post. It will be clear because there will be instructions there. You will need to like the post, and you will need to leave a comment. Say whether you want to go to Atlanta or Costa Mesa and why you want to go there. We're going to hopefully pick those winners and announce them on tomorrow's show. Let's all keep our fingers crossed that Facebook can take care of their outages. If you look at the outage map, it's just like they're having a bad day over at Facebook, right? None of us wants to be having the day that they're having. But this is a great conference. Now, sometimes you guys record. Do you ever make those able for people to see afterwards, Lisa?
We do, and how we do that, because we feel community is the best way to get support. And if you're watching it, you know, in your pajamas at home, not always the best way to get things that you need. So each of our chapters will be replaying some of the top sessions. And in fact, if you're near a TACA chapter, we're in 31 states, you can request a session to the coordinator. And we make those available so they can be shown in a group setting, but with Q&A and support, so you're not left wondering what to do next. You have the community right there with you, supporting you all the way.
Wonderful.
Great idea.
Recently I had a bunch of parents reach out to me from the Chicago area, and I said, well, there's got to be a TACA there. And so there isn't. Are you going to get a Chicago chapter at some point?
No, what are you talking about? There's 2 chapters in that area.
Oh, I beg your pardon?
Yeah,
I need to be hooked up with them.
On like Donkey Kong.
Okay, because I looked at the map and I did not see you in Illinois, so I looked wrong. I beg your pardon, and let's get them hooked up because they really want to be in Chicago. All right. Well, madam, thank you so much. Again, TACA Now. And TACAnow.org, go there and learn, and get tickets for the conference. And then go to Facebook later on, Autism Live, like it, and tell us why you want to go and which conference you want to go to. Lisa, thank you for being so generous.
Thanks for being here today, friend.
Thank you both for always hosting us. We want to reach as many families as we can. And I'll comment about scholarships on the post, too, if someone needs a scholarship.
Well, people should know that if they want to apply for scholarships, you give wonderful scholarships. I have been a recipient of a TACA scholarship.
Oh, you have?
I have. So please, please, please don't count yourself out if you feel like you can't afford it. Apply for a scholarship because Lisa's running it right. All right.
Okay.
We adore you.
Thank you, Lisa. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So you're going to finish this up later on Facebook.
Yes,
Okay.
we're going to have to because Facebook is not with us.
Right, so we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to have Faith Butterfield
and her sister.
Faith is an animator.
Yes, and an actress, and she's a Renaissance woman.
Okay.
She's an amazing, and she, I've got all kinds of things happening on my phone.
Yes, you do.
My phone is having a total meltdown, as it does Facebook and my phone.
So we'll be back.
Faith and Gracie Butterfield up next.
Okay, great.
Stick with us.
Hard times lead to good choices. Many times you're going to find out that change is coming and it's not something that you like to see. Things sometimes just don't work. Sometimes you have to put your child in a new school. Sometimes you have to put them in a different classroom. Often you'll see this with perhaps special education versus regular education, or everyone's favorite, puberty. All bets are off then. However, these things happen when they need to happen. So making that hard choice is super, super scary. But when you open those doors to look at things that maybe you've never dreamed you would have to look at, you're going to find help that you never expected. There are a lot of people out there dealing with the same things that you are dealing with, and there is a level of help that you never even knew existed. So don't be afraid when it's time to look at the scary problems that you're having. When those things come up, when the aggression increases, when things are falling apart at home, when you're getting the calls from the schools, don't be afraid. Reach out. Find out what you need to do. You might need to look at new schools, new housing. You might need to access new levels of service. But I am telling you, you're going to see amazing things. There are children that, as they grow, do things with the help of others, very specialized support, that you never thought they could do. So once you do that and you meet the child where he or she is and you give them what they need, everybody can do better and you're going to see amazing progress.
Parent to parent, you might be asking yourself sometimes, why does my child have meltdowns? Well, the difference between tantrums and meltdowns, tantrums, they're a part of typical development, but meltdowns are when things get a little bit more out of control, when even the child isn't sure what's entirely wrong. Generally with a meltdown, there's an environmental component. There's something else going on outside the child that's making the tantrum worse. It's really important that we start to be detectives and take notes and look around at the environment and start to figure out what are the things that happen every time your child has a meltdown. And lastly, it's important to get help. You really can't face these kinds of things effectively completely on your own. Tantrums, they're a part of typical development, but don't accept meltdowns as something that just happens. Make sure you get help and support. You might be asking yourself if your child has autism.
Hi, I'm Lisa Ackerman. Welcome back to TACA Facts. We hear questions all the time, and we want to give you the answers that help make your journey in autism easier and more navigatable. Less than a year ago, we interviewed the top 100 doctors in the United States working with children on the spectrum, and we asked them a question in the cloak of secrecy. What are the top 3 mistakes parents living with autism do? Number 1, and the one that makes me laugh the most, is when they use their physician as a marriage and family therapist. 1, the doctors told me it made them uncomfortable, and 2, they were highly unqualified to provide that type of advice. So the night before your physician appointment with your MAPS doctor, get together with your spouse, significant other, and write out the list of the targets and the agenda that you want to cover at the physician's appointment. Get in sync. Then you'll be definitely spending less time and not making that doctor so uncomfortable. Second thing that was the most common mistakes parents living with autism make is they want to go too fast. And really, you want to pace yourself in the autism journey. We all know that we want to get our kid to be the best they can be and hopefully recover from autism. And what a lot of the doctors have told me is that you want to really pace yourself. 1, to let the labs be your guide. And 2, work with your physician on the prioritization and the delivery of the different medical interventions. The third most common mistake they felt families made was giving up too soon. And what you need to know is they're invested. They're looking at wanting to get the best from your child. But I tell you that when I got that and consolidated the 100 interviews with these physicians, most of the doctors who brought that up had tears in their eyes. They want you to know that they're in the fight with you, and they want you to know that hope is really real. It may take hard work and it may take time, but to not give up and to stay in the game. So let TACA help you. We'll have some more TACA facts for you in the future, real questions and real answers for the autism journey.
Parent to parent, you might be asking yourself, why does my child stim? Well, first of all, let's talk about what stimming is. Stimming is a slang term for self-stimulatory behavior, which is kind of a misnomer anyway, because a lot of the times when our children engage in these kinds of behaviors, they're not to stimulate themselves. Sometimes they're to soothe themselves. So first of all, we want to get rid of the notion that it's to stimulate themselves. But they do these behaviors because there's something about it that feels good. And that's the main thing that we need to know as parents. It's not some random behavior. There's something about it that's giving the child a paycheck. And once we get an idea of what that might be, we need to find a behavior that can take that behavior's place and start to reinforce that. We want to pick something that's more socially acceptable.
So if, for instance, the child is doing a lot of hand flapping because they like seeing their blurred fingers, then we can find something else for them to focus on, maybe a toy that does blurred colors. So for a period of time, they'll focus on that. The main thing to remember, though, is that there is a reason for these behaviors. There's something about it that feels good to the child. And once we know that, we can begin to change it. There's a phrase that's being used in the autism community called stimming. We got
caught there.
I'm so sorry. We had, because I heard 5-0 and then it was, no, it's 15. In any case, we're excited because in the studio we have two amazing young women. We have Faith and Gracie Butterfield. Welcome to the show. We're really excited. Today's the first day that I'm meeting Gracie, but it's your first time meeting both of them, correct,
Yes,
Nancy?
it is. Right.
Very
and I
excited.
understand you're an avid viewer of Let's Talk Autism. Right?
Well, of
Faith?
Autism Live.
Of Autism Live, that you watch it all the time.
Yes, I do.
Okay,
Just
great.
recently, though, because we met in December at the Spectrum Laboratories, what do they call it now? They don't call it a record launch, but
Musical extravaganza.
Musical extravaganza, there we go. And it was lovely that you came up and introduced yourself to me, and then you started watching the show, and we've been having conversations with you live while you've been on the show, and we said, Faith, this is ridiculous. You're a talented young woman. Let's get you on the show. And because you work as a team with your sister, we've got Gracie here as well. Now, you guys are a team, and together you do animation, and I understand that, Gracie, you do more of the story aspect of it, and Faith, you do more of the animation. But together, you guys are kind of a powerhouse, and you recently had won an award. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But how did you guys get started in the field of animation and telling stories in animation?
Well, for the most part, I got started in animation by watching cartoons at a very young age.
Mm-hmm. And Gracie, when did you know that you wanted to tell stories that your sister would animate?
Well, first of all, I got involved in writing, like in a creative writing class in middle school. And from there, when Faith started to animate, she needed help with her storylines, so I just went and helped her out with that. And from there, we started working together.
And what an amazing collaboration,
Right.
right?
How do you get your ideas for your projects?
We get ideas from our projects from my own real life experience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And let's talk a little bit about, you won an award. What was the award that you won?
The Academy of Dream Awards from the Palm Springs International Animation Film Festival for my animated short, My Heart Flies.
And
Well,
that's
congratulations.
pretty prestigious. I gotta say, were you guys pleased and excited when that happened?
Yeah.
Yeah? Or did you sort of think, you know, we're kind of in the running for this. We might very well win. Did you think that you might win?
Well,
Yes.
I wasn't really expecting it myself, but it was a pleasant surprise nonetheless.
Always,
Yeah.
always a pleasure to win, right? So I'm curious though, age-wise, how old are, and I know that's probably impolite to ask, is it okay?
No,
It's fine. Yeah, we're about like 18 months apart.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she's like around 21, 22-ish. I'm 20.
So very young,
Yeah.
very young women doing this, and sisters. I imagine that that's a little bit interesting. What's the best part, or what do you like about working together as a team with your sisters? And you can both answer.
Well, I like working with my sister Gracie because it's collaborative and makes it funner because although Janet Touchjohn referred to as collaboration is really fun from Workshop 2.0, which I got started in.
Okay.
And basically, what I like working with my sister Faith is she has a lot of energy, which I don't really have, which allows the project to go forward. Without her, a lot of this wouldn't have happened because I don't have the energy that she has.
Well, that's
So,
an amazing compliment to give, both of you.
Now, Faith, you identify as having autism.
Yes.
Tell us some advice that you might have for young people on the autism spectrum that are interested in doing animation like you do.
Well, for the most part, my advice to people with autism is that focus on the assets, I mean not the deficits, and therefore you have to give your child the gifts of autism and follow the perseveration until you become an expert at it.
Okay, so whatever the person is interested in the most, just keep following up on that.
I will.
Okay, that's what you're saying.
And I'm curious because to be so young and to be so talented and accomplished, you guys have already accomplished a great deal at this age. What do you think, what's the secret of your success? What do you think has helped you both to be able to have gone as far as you have already? What do you think? Do you think that there's anything that has helped you, Faith? Or Gracie, do you want to say? Yes?
Okay. Everything that helped me was my autistic creative thinking and the friends and families that I had in Spectrum Laboratory, Workshop 2.0, and school.
Yeah, Spectrum Laboratory is a pretty amazing place where I've seen many talented people go in and find a voice and find a way to be able to create. So I'm sure that they'll be thrilled to hear that you enjoyed it too. What about you, Gracie? What do you think the secret of your success at this young age is?
Well, honestly, I would say the same thing. The sort of autistic preservation, although Faith and I, we sort of work in different ways. With her gifts of autism, she tends to work more extrovertedly. It allows her to have the focus to put her projects out in the external world, while with me, it sort of allows me to focus internally on my ideas and sort of focus on it to a fine point.
And so do you also identify as being someone on the spectrum,
Yes.
Gracie?
It's not as noticeable with me, but I do have like a few telltale symptoms like language processing delay, for example. Like sometimes occasionally I don't really understand what people are saying, so I misunderstand people. And I also have a lot of trouble with socialization as well.
And do you also participate with Spectrum Laboratories and do those?
From time to time, not as much as Faith, but occasionally I come over and help out.
You know, it's so interesting because we talk all the time about how there isn't just one type of autism, that it's a spectrum and people fall in many different places, and they are, you know, that saying, if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism.
Yeah.
And here you are, two sisters, talking about how different you are and yet how well you work together. I think it's a very exciting thing to hear about.
And you brought something with you. Tell us about this.
This is Mouse in the Penthouse.
And so this is a book that you guys
you did together,
did
collaboration.
Yeah, it's in collaboration with Workshop 2.0.
Okay, and tell us what it's about.
It's about a mouse named Maddie who travels into Hollywood after falling into a magic portal while she was walking to school, and she met her first sidekick, a dragonfly named Larry, who wanted to help her finish the Gustinator action movie, which is a parody of The Terminator by Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, what a great elaborate plot that is.
So, and you told us that your ideas are based on your real life. So when have you fallen through a magic portal and met... How do you get from things that happen in your life to this very fantastical sort of story?
Yeah, I took inspiration from the Fairly Odd Parents because Timmy Turner had fairy godparents named Cosmo and Wanda, and later had Poof in the series, because I really wanted, because it was the main influence for Mouse in the House was Fairly Odd Parents.
Well, essentially, like along with that, the main sort of underlying theme behind that, while it seems like a fantastic experience, what happens to Maddie is that even though like she's basically apart from her family in this world. Like she's having all of this success, and yet over time she starts missing like her roots where she came from. So she tries to get back. And so basically from our life, we're trying to say basically don't forget where you came from even when you succeed.
I love that.
Great message.
It's unmistakable that both of you have a very strong fashion sense too. I noticed that before when I met you, Faith, and I've seen the things that you post online. You both look lovely today, but in very different ways. Are you guys very interested in fashion as well?
Not particularly, but the advice that we've always gotten is dress to succeed. You have to basically, if you really want people to basically have a good first impression of you, you have to dress like, as it sounds kind of shallow, but it is true in this day and age. If you really want to get a good first foot out there, first of all, you have to look like you put yourself together, that you take care of yourself.
How about you, Faith? Do you like fashion?
I do.
You can tell. You
very
definitely
clear.
have an eclectic look going on. And you also brought your portfolio, which I wish we could...
Oh my gosh, it's filled with amazing things to
Absolutely
show how
amazing.
she as an artist is growing. And these are things that you did while in school?
Yes.
When you continue to study art?
Yes, I do, because I've been taking an art survey class from the Renaissance to Contemporary because I want to know my art lineage from my ancestors.
Wonderful. And where can people, is there a way that we can see the animated short that you did that was award-winning? Is there a way that we can see it online?
Yes, you can see it on YouTube.
And you said that we have that, Traven? We have a clip.
Oh.
Well, let's start with the clip from the animated short, because we also have
It's
a
called
clip
My Heart Flies.
So let's watch some of that so that we can take a look and see. Here we go.
Listen up! I am going to crush you like a ladybug and eat you all up!
Somebody help!
Anytime, Traven.
Listen, Kira. In order to face your fears, I am going to cast you an anti-fear spell, and you must close your eyes. Think happy thoughts.
That's fine.
Then open your eyes.
That's fine.
Anti-luce timinis.
Fantastic, Faith. Where did you get your inspiration for that?
My childhood.
Okay.
Wonderful. I get the sense that you guys have had some great teachers and some great family members who have supported you.
Yes.
Is there any advice that you guys would give to other parents about how to really support our kids and help them to be able to be successful like you guys are? What would you say to parents?
Okay, my advice is that follow your child's need and turn their assets turn their deficits into access, because you have to watch out in the IEP meetings that your kid has, and therefore you have to follow in their children's needs based on their perseveration thinking, which because their brain is wired differently from the normal people.
Okay.
Basically, what I would say is, whenever you see, like, basically with their obsessions or behaviors that you don't like, instead of trying to change them, try to make it into something that they can use, something that is functional. Because essentially, their obsessions, their behaviors, as much as you try to deny, it's still a part of them. So I would say try to, instead of like just erasing it completely, make it into something that they can use to succeed with.
I've always said that an obsession is just slightly removed from passion.
From a passion and a talent,
and,
right.
We all want to have passion about what we do in life. And the people that I've met that are the most successful, I'm sure you feel this way too, are people who got really passionate and obsessed about something that they wanted to do.
And they pursued that wholeheartedly.
Yes, and found their heart. So, exactly. And so we started to say, if people want to be able to watch that entire short, My Heart Flies, where can they go to see the entire thing, you guys?
On YouTube.
Okay. And just look up My Heart Flies?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. And where can we get the book?
On Amazon.
Okay.
Okay,
So
and
Amazon.
it's called Penthouse. Mouse in the Penthouse.
And we're going to work on the next book, which is which we cannot reveal it to you.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
it's going to be a surprise for us.
Yes.
And
sounds good.
What do you hope for? What would be the be-all, end-all for you career-wise? Do you want to be able to do an animated feature? Do you want to have a series on the Cartoon Network? What do you guys dream about being able to do?
I was able to do a comic book that is based on the life of the Byzantine Emperor Justinian, which is currently in production with Work Entrepreneurial and my mentor Ariel J. Fulcher.
Wow, that's amazing.
So you've already accomplished that.
Yeah.
Well, she's still working on it.
Oh,
But it's been a
okay.
big lifetime dream of hers ever since she was like, I think, in late middle school, early high school. She's been focused on Hopsinius, the Last Roman.
When I was 14.
Yeah, so a big dream of ours would be able to turn that into a movie.
Okay,
an
great.
movie.
Great.
Well,
Well, I have no
we'll
doubt
put
you
that
can
out there.
accomplish that.
Absolutely. We thank you so much for
Yes,
being
thank
with
you
us.
for being here and inspiring others.
Absolutely. All right. And
Okay.
is there a place where they can go to follow you guys? Do you guys have your own like website?
You can follow mine on Wix, Facebook, and Instagram, and YouTube.
So what would be the name
Your
that they? So on
handle.
Facebook they just look up Faith Butterfield.
Yes.
Or is there a place that the two of you are together where your projects are? Website? Yeah.
Okay.
I'll mostly look over Faith's social media. So
Okay.
yeah. So
And you're very active on social media, and I want to thank you because you've been sharing Autism Live, and that's been a really lovely thing for us. So thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thank you both for
Thank
being
you,
here
ladies.
today.
Thank
It's been
you.
a thrill. All right, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to be back a little bit later with Regina Levy, who's a CPA, and she's going to talk with us about things financial.
Okay, which
is
we
important.
always get scared about, but
this
we
is
need to
good
hear
information.
it. Yeah.
So stick with us. Talk to us a little bit about what your degree is in.
City planning or urban planning.
I got it from Cal State Northridge with a degree in cinema and television arts with an emphasis in screenwriting.
And what are you interested in, Eli?
A video game internship.
Computer programming.
I'm hoping to combine entertainment and travel, my two passions.
Ooh, what kind of jobs have you worked?
Bakery inventory.
Okay, inventory.
Talk about your volunteer
I
job.
was going to help the soldiers.
You volunteered to help the soldiers?
Yes. I interned in the national parks in the Santa Monica Mountains, which is very urban area. So I worked with the problems of how it's impacting the surrounding community, like the flow of traffic and the flow of people and what they could do to plan in the parking.
I've been to China. I've been all around Europe. I've been to Thailand, Japan, Australia.
You can create an app? That's impressive. Really cool thing. Can you teach other people how to make an app? If you have a choice between working or not working,
Working.
you like working.
Yes.
Why? What do you like about working?
It is fun.
I would work
Yeah, you would choose work. Why?
because I want to get paid and enjoy it, and want to make sure I have enough money so I can save it.
Why do you need to have a full-time job? I mean, it's kind of like a duh thing, right?
Well, obviously, so I
Yeah.
can support myself
Right.
and hopefully a family down the line, but at least at first, myself.
I'm very dependable and always reliable and get to my job on time.
What excites you about working a job or being an intern?
Learning new skills.
Yeah. What has it meant to you having this job and having the stability of a job that you've had for multiple years?
It's meant the world because I'm able to do everything, but almost everything I wanted to do because of that job.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Hi, welcome back to Autism Live. I'm Lisa Ackerman, Executive Director of TACA. We're gonna bake again.
All right.
It's my lovely assistant.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Lucero.
We've heard so many people go, I want a decent chocolate chip cookie for my kid to eat. We've got all our dry ingredients. So I've got the flour, I've got the flaxseed meal, baking soda, baking powder, our gum, or xanthan gum.
Great.
So we're gonna get started in the mixer here. So there's our dry ingredients. I do have brown sugar. We did cut this down. And the one way to do that is my favorite, and that's maple syrup. I'm using egg for this recipe, but we could use more arrowroot and also the flaxseed meal. So I'll go ahead and throw my eggs in here, which I love doing. So, and then the last thing is a shortening and gluten-free casein-free butter replacement. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw this in. I've let it sit out for a while so it's nice and soft. So let's go ahead and mix this thing well. These are dairy-free, soy-free, and I really like them. Again, Enjoy Life is a great product. It's also net-free. And chocolate chips are a personal thing. I won't judge you if you use the whole bag.
I would.
I know, right? So here we go. Great recipe. It's the nice consistency. Everything's ready to go, so we can enjoy our cookies here in just about 10 minutes. We want to give it a kind of like a couple inches between each cookie. You know, a lot of people are really concerned about aluminum, so what I've done is I laid down my natural brown parchment paper, and Jen's helping out putting the cookies down. So we're separating the nice baked good that's all organic from the aluminum cookie sheets. So let's go put these in. So magic oven allows me to pull the last ones out. And voila.
Yum, that's so good.
Really great cookies. I'll let you have a bite so you can do my Vanna White there too. Yeah, these taste pretty good.
Really good.
We're going to come back later after I gain 5 pounds and eat this entire tray.
For sure.
You know, more feedback is good. So if there's something you want us to convert, like another recipe or maybe a relative made, just let us know. autismlive@gmail.com. You can go to Facebook, or there's thousands of recipes on the TACA website just waiting for you to explore. You can go to TACANOW, TACANOW.org, and we'll see you next time at Autism Live.
Bye.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild, let's get wild.
Delightful young ladies.
They were, and now we're excited because we very hurriedly have now on the phone and Skype Gina. And Gina, I didn't get a chance to ask you. Do you say it Levy, Levy? How do you say? Gina Levy.
Okay.
And we're excited you are a CPA, and that puts fear into the heart of most of us.
I know,
and we want to run screaming with our hair on fire to the refrigerator.
We hate to tell you that.
Yes. But so we feel that it's important, though, to face some of our fears and talk to financial experts. And you've got some great tips and advice for us about ways that we as autism parents can make sure that we're getting the funds that we need and using them for the right things. So let's start with talking about the mountain that everybody, well, especially here in California, IHSS. And I always like put extra letters in there. I say IHHSS, I say ISHA, like I spell everything.
Yes.
Right.
Let's talk about what it stands for. That's a good place to start.
In-home supportive services.
Okay. So it's IHSS, and I did not know about it. When my son was being treated with autism, I did not know about it. And the families that I know that do know about it, financially, there is less ruin that happens for them, and more peace and less anxiety. So super important. Now, you've got information for us. I don't even know what a Notice 2014-7 is.
Okay.
Tell us.
This is a long history. I'll try and be brief. In the early 2000s, the IRS decided that this was taxable income to parents, and they had several different court cases and memos and whatnot that said, no, parents, this is taxable income. A couple in Ohio took the IRS to court and said, no, we believe this is substantially the same as a foster care situation, where the state has come in and said, we would ordinarily take this child and put them in an institution, but you've signed this institutional deeming waiver, and we will help you by helping through in-home support services, help you to financially take care of your own child, because you're giving up the right for the state to take care of it. So you've accessed Medicaid, which is Medi-Cal in California, is going to help you take care of it. So if your neighbor had taken your child in under a foster care situation, that income would have been excluded under the foster care exclusion, which is a certain part of the Internal Revenue Code. This couple took the IRS to court and said it makes no sense that our adult child, who we're getting IHSS for, could be taken care of for tax-free income by our neighbor, but we have to pay taxes on it.
Okay, so I'm catching up a little bit here. So, because what we need to have people know is that when you get IHSS, it sometimes translates into a check for you for the care that you give your child. Like if you're driving your child to...
The state is assigning your child money, and that child pays you, the parent, to take care of them.
Okay. And what you're saying is that should not be taxable income.
Because it meets the same criteria as a foster care situation, it is considered a difficulty of care payment and is excluded under the foster care exclusion.
Okay. So
that's essentially what Notice 2014-7 was. And what's important about Notice 2014-7 is that the IRS has decided, the attorneys looked at this and they said, oops, the courts were wrong. This is not taxable to whether it's a biologically related person or not. So just because you're taking care of your own child doesn't mean that this is not a state-sponsored foster care payment situation for difficulty of care payments for a child with special needs or an adult with special needs. It can be an adult, it can be even a child taking care of a disabled parent. So the important thing is that as of January 2014, when this notice was issued, that income became not includable as taxable income if you were living in the same home.
okay. And so you won't get a W-2 for it, but
For 2015, 16, and 17, state of California kind of fought this, and they said, no, we really think it's taxable income, and they issued some notices that they didn't really sign, and they finally went to the IRS and they asked for a private letter ruling saying that, for California, this is taxable. So the IRS came back in the middle of 2016 and said, nope, all of IHSS programs within the state of California meet the criteria for foster care payments for difficulty of care, and none of that income is taxable so long as the person being cared for and the person taking care of that person, the caregiver and the caregivee, are living in the same residence. And there's no other residence for
So if they're family.
well, not necessarily.
It
Because it
doesn't
could be
matter
foster.
if it's family or not family. It could be a job coach living with an autistic adult.
Okay.
Okay. So it's not
So
taxable.
it doesn't matter if it's family or not family. That criteria no longer matters.
Now let's say that in 2015.
California then, in 2016, sent out, and early 2017, sent out some notices saying you can self-certify that you're living in the same home.
Okay.
A lot of people signed those SOC documents and sent them back to the state of California, and in January of 2017, the state of California ceased to consider this taxable income in all in IRS guidelines and stopped withholding taxes. So for 2017, parents got a W-2 with about 1 month's worth of income and 1 month worth of taxes withheld.
Okay.
That's the last W-2 they should ever receive. Therefore, there are no W-2s for parents for 2018. Relax, you're not going to get one. You weren't ever supposed to get one. California is finally following the law that was promulgated in 2014. 2014 should have been the last year that W-2s were issued. Took them a few years to get with the program, but it's California's finally following federal law.
Okay, so don't be looking for the W-2.
And what do you do if you paid taxes in the past?
Yeah, like in 2015 if you paid.
If you pay taxes in the past, you can file an amended return and get those taxes back on the IHSS income if it was included in your tax return. Now, if you or your tax preparer happen to use that W-2 to claim earned income tax credit, there could be a problem because you would have to repay any earned income tax credit you received because the IRS is not considering this earned income anymore.
Okay. All right, so it gets a little dicey.
There's the problem.
And this is why you would need a CPA. This is why this would be so much easier to have with a CPA. Okay, now for people doing taxes, talk to us a little bit about non-traditional medical expenses because You know, I know a lot of people that write off their medical expenses. Other people decide that they're going to take the standard deduction. But for people who have special needs kids, sometimes it might be worth it for them to itemize, but what are the non-traditional medical expenses that we can include?
Okay. Medical expenses are defined in the Internal Revenue Code as something that's used to treat a condition of the body. So autism is a medical, physical, or psychological condition. So autism meets that definition. It must be recommended by a medical professional, meaning a physician, doctor, therapist. The code even in the regulations goes down to say it could be a Christian Science practitioner, it can be a shaman, it can be, as long as it's a recognized medical practitioner. And it has to be something that you would not otherwise ordinarily purchase. So a toothbrush is not a medical expense.
But so let's say gluten-free, let's say you're on a gluten-free, dairy-free diet.
Yeah, well, I'll get to that in a minute, 'cause that's a little different.
Okay.
But let's say you're buying a special cushion for your child to sit in to pay attention. The bouncy ball or the yoga balls or anything like that. Your child wouldn't ordinarily buy that. Even though it might be used in an ordinary home, you're buying it for a specific purpose.
Okay.
Your therapist tells you you need to buy these specific games for your ABA program. Those are medical expenses.
Okay. Okay, so it's got to follow that three-part test. Recommended by a medical professional, used to treat a diagnosed condition, and not something you would otherwise purchase. And if it's all those three, then you can deduct it.
Yeah, I have a case where a parent has a child who's 8 years old, not potty trained, and needs aquatherapy. They rented a house, they purchased a house with a pool, but the child has escape issues. So they actually built an enclosure over and around the pool because the fence was not enough. So they put up this rather ugly, very hastily constructed house over the pool. And we had a appraiser look at the property before and after. The appraiser said this does not add any value to this home at all. Therefore, because it's not something they would ordinarily purchase, it was required for the child because the child cannot go to a public pool anymore. They're incontinent, and the mother cannot go into the woman's changing room with an 8-year-old boy, and the child needs swim diapers. That's not allowed. So they had to have their own pool.
Okay,
But they had to adapt the pool for the use of the child that didn't add any value to the home.
So they deducted that then, I'm guessing.
Of that structure is deductible this year.
Okay.
The year that they expended.
Okay.
So it's exactly the same as writing off a wheelchair ramp.
All right. I like this. So we're running out of time, Gina, but let's move on to special diets because a lot of our kiddos are on gluten-free, casein-free. And that's expensive.
So it's the additional cost over normal food. So if you buy a 1-pound loaf of bread, gluten-free bread, and it's $5 a loaf, and if you were to buy a pound and a half of regular bread, and it's $1.50 a loaf, you're paying $4 a pound more for your bread.
Right. And you can deduct that. Yeah.
You can
I get that.
Make sense?
Yeah, totally makes sense.
You have to figure out
Can't be the whole thing.
cost per ounce of each type of food, regular and gluten-free. You take the difference times the number of units you purchased. That's your deduction.
But
I would take photos of prices of regular foods at the same time you buy your gluten-free foods, so you have documentation.
Which brings up the question that I have about all of this that I would love the answer to is that when I get into that level of detail, my big fear is always they're going to audit.
They're going to audit me.
And do you know, like, are you more likely to be audited if you're a special needs family and do all this?
If your medical expenses are very high, there is a chance you'll be audited. But I've never lost an audit case.
Okay. Well, and we're going to make sure we give Gina's number so you can contact her.
Yeah, let's give people information on how they can reach you.
Okay, I am not taking, this is a very busy tax time for me. I'm not taking on additional clients at the time, but if anybody wants to contact me after April 15th and have me look at their taxes and see if amending it would make sense, I'd be happy to do that.
And how do they get a hold of you?
My email address is GinaLevyCPA@account.com.
Okay. Now, there were more things on the list here, and we really only have like another 30, we're past time, but you have education-related expenses, including therapies and advocacy, and then you have some new information about new tax law, including the child tax credit and other dependent credit. I think, is there any way that you can give us a taste of what you wanted to say there, especially, I know parents that are spending a lot of money on co-pays.
Right, go ahead.
Yeah.
Therapies should be documented in your IEPs and IPPs with the regional center.
Okay.
Because if you're audited and they want to make sure that it was recommended by a physician and it's part of a plan of care, if it's documented in the individual program plan with the regional center, that's pretty much an audit-proof therapy. Because you've got the regional center signing off on it, you're signing off on it, the doctors are signing off on it, everybody agrees your child needs it.
So you could write off co-pays then on ABA therapy?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Everything that you're paying out of pocket.
And you can write off advocacy if you use special needs advocate or attorney?
Advocacy must be used to access, if advocacy is used to access public education, I mean, a therapist going to your speech therapist at a public school, or additional OT at a public school, you cannot, or a shadow at a public school, you cannot hire a shadow and send them to the school with your child. You have to have the school district provide that. So if you're hiring an advocate to make sure your child gets that, and it's in the IPP as being required, it's an educational expense for special education and is deductible. If you're hiring an advocate to access private school and saying that the school district can no longer appropriately teach your child, and you want the school district to pay for private school, and you need to hire an advocate to fight for that for you, that's not deductible because you could go to the private school on your own. It's not required for your child to attend the private school if the school district pay for it. You might go broke, but that's not the tax code's responsibility.
Okay. Wow.
There's a big difference between
Fascinating.
whether or not you can actually access the education for your child without the advocate.
Gina, this has all been really helpful. So again, if people want to get in contact with you, we got your email there. And I assume that you recommend that special needs parents work with a CPA to get the best return.
If they're working with a CPA already and they're happy with that CPA, if they would like that CPA to contact me with any of these questions, I'd be happy to talk to other CPAs.
Well, thank you. That's very generous of you.
I'm one person. I can't handle the entire autistic population in California. So any CPAs out there that want to talk to me, I'm happy to share.
Thank you for that.
We appreciate you so much.
Thanks for breaking this down.
Yes. Taxes. Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much, Gina. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right.
And good luck to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
We'll be reaching out to you to have us reevaluate our taxes afterwards. Yeah. All right. Take care. We are totally out of time.
Do you want to say anything about tomorrow?
Tomorrow is a great show. It's like off the chain. We don't even have time to talk about it. But hopefully this show will be later on Facebook so that you guys who missed it today on Facebook will be able to watch it. Thanks to all of our guests. It's been a really interesting day. I really appreciate you and everybody else. We'll see you tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me.
And give yourselves a hug from me. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye for now.